I know what you're saying without saying it. Sometimes you don't need words. Although some people do need them, sometimes your actions are a little better. And my dad's actions in trying his best to be an unbelievable grandfather made our father-son relationship that much better. And there was a lot of conflict between my brother and my dad, and seeing that mend over the time. And just saying, look, I'm not supposed to be here. Dad, look at what your son has done. Look at where I am. Being that I can, I want to make sure that you get to see some dope things in life. Here, let's do this and take that and live like this and do. So things work themselves out. His reward for giving his energy to something positive and life-changing was his son becoming successful and his son saying, Dad, It's not expected. That wasn't the plan. You got a great piece of light at the end of that dark tunnel that you didn't expect, that I didn't expect, because I didn't expect to be here. So everything it works itself out.
Yeah.
And, and losing my dad is when you look back and you go, yo, he was all right? Like my reflection, my conversation, my words when I speak on behalf of my father, they're so positive and dope because he did good. I'm all right.
Mm-hmm.
I came out okay. Mom, Dad, you did good. Like whatever you did to put whatever recipe in this pot, the food came out all right. I'm a good person. I got a good heart. I treat people with respect. Ultimately, I want the most that I can possibly get out of life. I love to love. I'm a good dude. Am I perfect? No. I got some of them imperfections over there. I got some of the ones from over here, from my man, Dad. Okay, that's life.
Of course.
I'm going to figure it out, but I figure it out without the want or need for problem.
That's real, man. I mean, listening to you say that, what I appreciate so much is about how you're changing our perspective again, that often we feel to heal, what was broken needs to be fixed. And actually what you've just said is seeing him try with the grandkids, that's not even the area that needed fixing or was broken, but seeing that starts to create some healing.
That's the best example that I can ask for.
Yeah.
Because it's not about us, right? Like me and my ex-wife got to a point of realization, after having a significant amount of ups and downs, after our divorce, we got to a point where you realize it's not about us. Like we did it. We had our opportunity and we're now adults. How we choose to live as adults, well, that's a choice that we make, but we're trying to make the best choices so that they have a better life. So it's about them. When I see somebody making the efforts to make life for them better, well, then we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm. We have the same vision.
We got the same vision.
Yeah.
It's not about us at this point. It's not about us as a generation at this point. It's about us trying our best to do things, to create change, to move ground, shift the gears so that they have a much better opportunity than what we did.
Yeah.
That's the world of the baton being passed correctly. And if you understand that and you have that mindset, you approach your day-to-day differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have that mindset, and it's one thing that I'm very thankful for. And through the things that should be problems or were supposed to be problems, I've never held on to them long enough. And by the way, just bringing it back full circle, that's a monster. That grudge monster, that's a monster. I'm gonna get you back. Wait, you just watch. I'm gonna hold on to that and I'm gonna prove to you, or I'm gonna show you, or I'm not talking to nobody over here. That's a monster. So you can fuel that monster, or that monster doesn't have to have an existence in me.
It's really, really interesting hearing that perspective again, because, one of my favorite lessons that I've learned is that often the thing that's holding you back is something you're holding on to.
Yes.
one of my favorite lessons, the idea that something that's holding you back is you're holding on to it. So whether it's a grudge, like you're saying, the grudge monster, or a feeling or an emotion or an idea, that you're not allowing it to let go when it no longer serves you. And being able to walk away from that requires real strength and courage. But one of the things that you said about you and your partner, your ex-wife, that I think is really powerful is that when it's just about us, whoever that may be, you're either looking at each other or you're looking past each other. And what you just said is now we're looking in the same direction when it's the kids. And so that switch, if you think about any relationship in our life, when we think it's just about us, when it's not about anyone else, you're always gonna be against each other. But as soon as there's a higher purpose, or there's a commitment, or there's a value that supersedes that.
An understanding.
An understanding, yeah.
An understanding that comes with the world of communication and great dialogue. I can, and having this conversation, I can point to so many examples of how it's so hard to see the good if you're only seeing the bad. Like, there's so many people that struggle with what their version of success is because they're looking at someone else's. There's so many people that struggle with their world of relationship because they're judging theirs based off of someone else's, right? And when you're constantly in the space of not realizing or noticing your world, your reality, because you're living in what appears to be someone else's, well, your shit is never gonna be right. It's never gonna be right?
Yeah,
like if I'm looking at everybody's relationship with their father and I'm going, I want that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not embracing the world of good that came from my dad. I could have went down the road that my dad did. I could have easily been wrapped into the same world of, drugs, gangs, violence, stick-up boys, right? Like the embracing the hood at the highest level. Not that I don't, because I do. That's where I'm from. But I could have embraced it at a much higher level and followed in the footsteps of my father, because that's what he did. But I was able to realize the mistakes he made. I was able to go, well, I don't want to go down that street because I see the consequences of it. That's a choice that I made, right? Some don't make that choice. By the way, no disrespect to those that haven't. It's to each his own. You do what you want based off of who you've seen or what you want to be true to. Live your life. Ultimately, we get one. Live it for you. Live it to the best space and place that you feel you can win at. That's my motto. I'm not here to tell you right from wrong. I'm saying I identify things differently and I make decisions based off of examples that I can look at as not bad, but ones that if I didn't have, I could have made that mistake.
Yeah.
So without a lesson that was intentional, my dad's giving me lessons.
Yeah.
Right? It's not intentional. My dad never said, I went to jail so you didn't have to.
Yeah.
He never said that. But hey, man, seeing you in jail, Dad.
That's my wisdom, yeah.
Well, that just made me realize I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Hearing how you talk about it, hearing how many times you went. Well, I don't want to go there. Seeing what drugs did to you and you talking and telling the stories, what you lost, what you had, what you don't. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to embrace my father. I'm going to embrace this imperfect human being, because I'll be damned if he's not positioning me for personal success and just understanding what I should and shouldn't do. And it seems so logical. It seems like common sense, but sometimes it's not that easy for some.
It's not.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, and sometimes what I'm hearing is sometimes the greatest wisdom is unsaid and unintentional, right? Like sometimes the greatest wisdom is not what someone said to you, and sometimes the greatest wisdom is knowing what not to do. I think we think of it as like knowledge or learning means someone's telling me what to do and they told me the right thing. Sometimes it's looking and saying, well, I know what not to do now. And what I'm fascinated though, and I think you're going to give people a lot of hope listening to you today, because when you say that you were complacent growing up, and I consider you today to probably be one of the hardest working people in entertainment from what I see and observe, and when I've watched your interviews or listened to you, you work super hard, you give it your all, you're invested from a mission purpose point of view. But hey, wait a minute, this person says I was complacent growing up, and it's never one moment, it's never one thing. So I don't even want to simplify it with that kind of a question. what were the shifts that needed to take place in order for you to go from being complacent to being one of the hardest working people who's committed to something?
I'm big on just like logic, right? And there's this like moment that I had where I just kept saying, why not? Like, why, right? And Russell Westbrook is a good friend of mine. I tease him all the time because the one saying that he has that I wish I would have had, or I wish I got to first, is why not, right? And it's so genius. It's so genius. It's so simple, but yet so profound. You don't just have to have one job. And working any job, and whether that job is a 9 to 5 or whether it's a, half a day, full day, whatever it is, you don't just have to do one thing. You can do a lot of different things. But there's this weird mindset that a lot of people have that you can only do one thing. And when I realized I don't have to just do one thing, I can do a lot of different things. You can be good at a lot of different things.